The silence of deep space was absolute. Nothing moved in this forgotten corner of the galaxy except for a small, damaged vessel tumbling slowly through the void. Its hull was scorched black in places, and a weak distress signal pulsed from its emergency beacon. The signal had been transmitting for months, maybe years. No one had heard it until now. The Velthary exploration ship, Celestial Dawn, was conducting a routine survey mission when its sensors picked up the faint signal. Captain Taman studied the readings on his display screen with interest. His blue skin shimmered under the bridge lights as he leaned forward. The Velthary were an old species, curious by nature, and Taman had spent 40 years exploring the unknown regions of space. Medical Officer Jiwoo, prepare the medical bay, Taman ordered. His voice was calm but firm. We have a distress beacon. Unknown vessel, unknown species. It could be anything. Jiwoo acknowledged the order and hurried to prepare. The Celestial Dawn approached the derelict craft carefully. When they got close enough, the crew could see how primitive it was. The vessel looked ancient, built with simple metal alloys and basic propulsion systems. It reminded Taman of ships his own ancestors. Might have built thousands of years ago. The boarding team entered through an airlock that barely functioned. Inside, the ship was cold and dark. Emergency lighting flickered weakly. They moved through narrow corridors until they found what they were looking for. In a small chamber at the center of the vessel, a single cryogenic pod hummed with power. Ice crystals covered its surface, but through the frosted glass they could see a figure inside. It's still alive, one of the crew members whispered. Whatever it is. They carefully transported the pod back to the Celestial Dawn. Jiwoo worked for hours to safely revive the creature inside. When the pod finally opened, steam poured out. The being inside gasped for air and opened its eyes. It looked around in confusion and fear. The creature was bipedal, standing on two legs like many species in the galaxy. Its skin was pale, almost pink in color. It had soft features, bilateral eyes, and a mop of dark hair on its head. When it spoke, the words were meaningless to the crew. The universal translator worked frantically to analyze the language patterns. After several minutes, the translator began to function. The creature's words became clear. Where am I? It asked weakly. What happened to the colony ship? Taman stepped forward slowly, keeping his movements gentle and non-threatening. You are safe now. You're aboard the Velthary vessel Celestial Dawn. I am Captain Taman. Can you tell us who you are? The creature sat up slowly, its body weak from long stasis. I am Lieutenant Hyansik of the Earth Expeditionary Force. My ship, the colony ship, New Hope. There was a malfunction, cascade failure in the main reactor. We tried to evacuate, but his voice broke. I was the only one who made it to an escape pod. I set the emergency beacon and entered cryosleep. I thought someone from Earth would find me. Ku scanned the creature with medical instruments. Your species is unknown to us. Where is this Earth you speak of? Hyansik described the location as best he could. The Velthary navigators checked their star charts. Earth was located in an unexplored region on the far edge of the galaxy, in a sparse spiral arm that most civilizations avoided. It was so remote that no major species had ever bothered to survey that sector. How long? Hyansik asked. How long was I in stasis? Jiwoo checked the readings from the pod. Based on the power, consumption, and degradation, approximately 7 years. Hyansik closed his eyes. 7 years. Everyone he knew on the colony ship was dead. His family back on Earth probably thought he was dead too. He was alone, billions of miles from home. Rescued by aliens he had never known existed. Captain Taman explained the situation carefully. Hyansik species, these humans, were completely unknown to the Galactic Council. Earth had never been contacted because it was so far from established trade routes and civilization centers. From what Hyansik described, humanity had only recently developed faster-than-light travel. They were still confined to their home system, taking their first tentative steps into the wider universe. We will take you to Velthar Prime, Taman said. You will be safe there. The Galactic Council will need to know about your species. This is technically first contact with humanity. Hyonsik looked at the alien captain with gratitude in his eyes. "Thank you. You saved my life. I don't know how to repay that." Taman made a gesture that the translator interpreted as a smile. "No repayment is necessary. All species in the galaxy share a responsibility to help those in need. It is the foundation of our civilization." Over the following weeks, as the Celestial Dawn traveled toward Velthor Prime, Hyonsik learned about the galaxy he had entered. He learned about the hundreds of spacefaring species, the vast trade networks, ancient civilizations, and the Galactic Council that maintained peace between them all. He felt simultaneously amazed and insignificant. Humanity was so small, so new, so primitive compared to all of this. He told the crew about Earth, about its blue oceans and green continents, about humanity's long history of war and peace, art and science, hope and despair. He told them how humans had finally unified after centuries of conflict, pooling their resources to reach for the stars. The colony ship, New Hope, had been humanity's first attempt to establish a settlement beyond their own solar system, and it had failed. Everyone died except him. When they finally reached Velthor Prime, Hyonsik stood at the viewport and stared at the massive space station orbiting the planet. Ships of 1,000 different designs came and went. Beings of countless species walked the corridors. It was overwhelming. Captain Taman stood beside him. "I know this is difficult, but you are welcome here. The Galactic Council will help you." Hyonsik made one request before they docked. "Please, can you send a message to Earth? Let them know I survived. Let them know we are not alone in the universe. Let them know there are friends out here waiting to meet them." Taman agreed immediately. The message was composed carefully, translated into the language samples Hyonsik provided, and sent through the subspace relay network toward Earth. It would take time for the signal to reach that distant world, but it would get there. Hyonsik waited for a response. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. No reply ever came from Earth. The silence was deafening. Velthor Prime became Hyonsik's new home. He had no other choice. The journey back to Earth would take decades, maybe longer, and he had no ship and no way to pay for such a voyage. The Velthori government provided him with housing and a small stipend. They treated him well, but he was always aware of his status as a curiosity, specimen of an unknown species. Life on Velthor Prime was strange at first. The gravity was slightly heavier than Earth's, making his muscles ache for the first few months. The air had a different chemical composition that took time to adjust to. The food was nutritious but tasted alien. Everything smelled wrong, looked wrong, felt wrong. But slowly, painfully, Hyonsik adapted. He learned the galactic common language, the trade tongue spoken across most of civilized space. He was a quick learner, and within a year, he could hold basic conversations. He studied galactic history, learned about different species and their cultures, and tried to understand his place in this vast new universe. Most galactic citizens found humans fascinating in the way one might find an interesting insect fascinating. They asked him questions about Earth, about human biology, about why humans had hair on their heads but not on most of their bodies. They were polite but patronizing. Humanity was classified as a pre-contact species, barely more advanced than primitives. Their technology was laughable. Their lifespans were short. Their bodies were fragile. Hyonsik endured the condescension with patience. What else could he do? During his second year on Velthor Prime, he met Dayun. She was a Velthori historian who specialized in emerging civilizations. She had read the reports about the rescued human and sought him out for an interview. What started as a formal academic meeting turned into a friendship. Dayun was different from other Velthori. She did not look down on Hyonsik or his species. She listened to his stories with genuine interest. She asked thoughtful questions about human culture, philosophy, and history. She seemed to understand that technological advancement did not equal wisdom or worth. "Tell me about human determination," she asked one day, as they sat in her cluttered office, surrounded by data, tablets, and historical artifacts. "Your colony ship failed. Everyone died except you. You were alone in space for 7 years. Most species would have given up hope, but you kept your distress beacon running. Why? Hide and Seek thought about the question carefully. Humans have a concept we call stubborn hope. Even when logic says there is no chance, we hold on to hope anyway. We believe that if we just keep trying, keep fighting, keep pushing forward, eventually things will get better. It is not always rational, but it has kept our species alive through terrible times. Dayun recorded his words carefully. Stubborn hope, she repeated. That is both beautiful and foolish. Yes, Hide and Seek agreed with a sad smile. It is both. Through Dayun, Huansak gained access to the academic and diplomatic communities on Velthor Prime. He attended lectures and conferences. He met representatives from dozens of different species. Most were polite but uninterested in humanity. A few were actively dismissive. One such individual was Ambassador Jasun of the Krillian Empire. The Krillians were one of the major military powers in the galaxy, proud warrior species with a long history of conquest and expansion. Jae-sung was a tall reptilian creature with scales that shimmered like oil and eyes that showed little warmth. During a diplomatic reception, Jae-sung cornered Hide and Seek near the refreshment table. So you are the human, Jae-sung said without preamble. The sole survivor of a failed colony mission. I am, Hide and Seek replied carefully. Your species fascinates the academics here, but I see no reason for such interest. Species like yours emerge constantly throughout the galaxy. Most destroy themselves within a few centuries. War, disease, environmental collapse, asteroid impacts. The universe is cruel to the weak. Hide and Seek kept his expression neutral. Perhaps. But humans are survivors. We have faced extinction many times in our history. We are still here. Jae-sung made a sound that might have been laughter. For now, your world is likely extinct already. 7 years in stasis, plus the years you have spent here. Nearly a decade has passed since you left Earth. They probably destroyed themselves in some nuclear war or pandemic. It happens to primitives all the time. The word stung because Hide and Seek had worried about the same thing. Earth had been unified when he left, but that unity was fragile. Old hatreds still simmered beneath the surface. Resources were scarce. Climate change threatened coastal cities. What if Jae-sung was right? What if he was the last human in existence? But he refused to show weakness. You may be right, Hide and Seek said quietly, or you may be very wrong. I suppose time will tell. Jae-sung lost interest and walked away. Dayun, who had witnessed the exchange, came to Hide and Seek's side. Do not listen to him. Jae-sung is a bully who measures worth only in military strength. Maybe he has a point, though, Hide and Seek said. Maybe Earth is gone. Maybe I am the last one. Then you carry your entire species' legacy within you, Dayun replied. That is not a small thing. The years passed slowly. Hyunsik worked various jobs to support himself. He repaired equipment, taught human languages to academics, and consulted on anthropological studies. He saved every credit he earned. His goal never wavered. Somehow, someway, he would find passage back to Earth. He needed to know if his world still existed. He needed to go home. By the year 2265, 17 years after his rescue, Hide and Seek had finally saved enough money. A trade convoy was planning a route that would pass relatively close to Earth's sector of space. It was not a direct route, and he would need to transfer between several vessels. But it was possible. The journey would take years, but he was willing to wait. Captain Taemin, now retired from active service, came to see him off at the spaceport. The old Velthori captain looked the same as he had 17 years ago. His species aged slowly. I never thought this day would come, Taemin said. You are really going back? I have to know, Hide and Seek replied. I have to see if Earth survived. If my family is still there, if humanity still exists. Taemin placed a hand on Hide and Seek's shoulder. It was a gesture of respect among the Velthori. If your people are still there, tell them something for me. Tell them they have friends among the stars. Tell them the galaxy is not as cold and empty as it seems. Tell them we will welcome them when they are ready. Hide and Seek felt emotion tightening his throat. I will tell them. And I will tell them about you, Captain. About how you saved a stranger for no reason other than it was the right thing to do. That is what civilization means, Taman said. Taking care of each other. Hyansik boarded the trade vessel. As it pulled away from Velthar Prime, he looked back at the planet that had been his home for 17 years. He felt gratitude for the kindness he had received, but also relief to finally be leaving. He was going home at last, or to whatever remained of it. The Galactic Council chambers on Nexus Station were designed to impress. The massive circular room could hold representatives from over 300 species simultaneously. Holographic displays floated in the air, translating speeches into hundreds of languages in real time. The architecture was ancient, built by civilizations that had long since passed into legend. This was the heart of galactic civilization, where laws were made and disputes settled. Counselor Minji of the Velthari delegation sat in her assigned seat, reviewing routine reports with mild boredom. Most council sessions dealt with mundane matters like trade disputes and border adjustments. Exciting events were rare in a galaxy that had been civilized for millions of years. Everything important had already been discovered, mapped, and cataloged. Or so everyone thought. The session was interrupted by an urgent priority signal. The holographic displays flickered and changed. A new transmission was being received, originating from a previously uncontacted region of space. The coordinates matched a system designated as Sol, located in the far reaches of an outer spiral arm. Minji sat up straighter. Sol system. That was where the human had come from, the one Captain Taman had rescued all those years ago. She had read the reports about Lieutenant Hyansik. The poor creature had lived on Velthor Prime for nearly 2 decades before finally scraping together enough credits to attempt a journey home. That had been 2 years ago. No one knew if he had made it or if Earth still existed. The transmission played for the entire council. The video showed a bipedal figure standing in what appeared to be an official government setting. The being had the same physical characteristics as the rescued human: bilateral symmetry, soft features, dark hair. But unlike Hyansik, who had worn simple, salvaged clothing, this individual was dressed in an elegant formal uniform. "Greetings to the Galactic Council," the figure said in perfect galactic common. "I am Ambassador Biorum of the United Earth Federation. On behalf of humanity, I request formal diplomatic recognition and the establishment of peaceful relations with the galactic community." The council chamber erupted in surprised murmurs. Minji leaned forward, studying the transmission carefully. The quality was excellent, the technology sophisticated. The humans spoke with confidence and polish. This was not a primitive species making first contact. This was a civilization that understood galactic protocols. Ambassador Boyram continued her presentation. "We understand that one of our people, Lieutenant Hyansik, was rescued by a Velthari vessel approximately 19 Earth years ago. We are grateful for the kindness shown to him. His safe return to Earth 2 years ago brought us valuable knowledge about the wider galaxy. We have prepared carefully for this moment." The transmission included detailed information packages, star charts showing Earth's location and its surrounding colonies, scientific papers demonstrating advanced knowledge of physics, engineering, and medicine, cultural files containing examples of human art, music, literature, and philosophy. Everything was professionally presented and carefully organized. Most shocking was the technological data. The information suggested that humanity had developed quantum computing, advanced fusion drives, artificial gravity manipulation, other technologies that typically took species centuries to achieve. According to the data, humans had colonized their entire star system and established outposts in 3 neighboring systems. When the transmission ended, council chamber was silent for a long moment. Then everyone started talking at once. Counselor Minji accessed the original reports about Hyansik. When he was rescued, his species was classified as barely post-FTL. His ship used primitive chemical propellants and crude warp drives. Humanity was confined to their homeworld with maybe a few dozen vessels total. That was only 19 years ago. What had happened? She ran the calculations 3 times, certain she had made an error. But the numbers were correct. Humanity had advanced technologically at a rate approximately 15 times faster than the galactic average. Such rapid development was unprecedented in recorded history. Other council members were reaching similar conclusions. The debate began immediately. Some species welcomed the newcomers enthusiastically. Others expressed caution. A few voiced concern that bordered on fear. Ambassador Young Ho of the Krillian delegation was the most vocal critic. "This rate of advancement is unnatural," he declared. "It typically takes species 2 to 3 centuries to achieve what these humans claim to have accomplished in 2 decades. We should be suspicious of their claims and cautious in our dealings with them." "Perhaps they are simply gifted," suggested a representative from the Zeth Collective. "Some species naturally excel at certain things. The Velthari are excellent explorers. The Krillians are natural warriors. Perhaps humans are naturally innovative, or perhaps they are dangerous," Young Ho countered. Rapid technological advancement without corresponding cultural maturity is a recipe for disaster. How do we know they will not use their new capabilities aggressively? Minji listened to the debate carefully. She remembered reading about hide-and-seek in the historical records. Captain Taman had described him as grateful, humble, and determined. Those were not the qualities of an aggressive species. But 19 years was a long time. Perhaps humanity had changed. The debate continued for hours. Finally, a vote was called. The majority of the council voted to accept Earth's petition for formal contact. However, standard first contact restrictions would apply. No sharing of military technology. No interference in established galactic politics and mandatory cultural observation periods. These were the same restrictions applied to all newly contacted species. A response was prepared and transmitted to Earth. Ambassador Borum's reply came within hours, suggesting she had been waiting for their response. Her image appeared on the holographic displays again, this time in real-time communication. "The United Earth Federation accepts these terms gratefully," Borum said. "We understand that we are newcomers to galactic civilization. We have much to learn from species with thousands or millions of years of history. We approach this relationship with humility and respect." Her words were diplomatic and appropriate. But then she added something that would be remembered for years to come. "However, I hope the Council will understand that humanity has learned hard lessons in our own history. We have learned that respect must be earned, not assumed. We have prepared ourselves carefully because we understand that the universe does not always welcome the unprepared. We seek friendship with all species, but we are not helpless children seeking protection. We offer partnership between equals." The transmission ended. The council chamber was quiet again. Ambassador Bjorm's message had been polite but firm. She had accepted the restrictions while simultaneously making it clear that humanity did not see themselves as subordinate to the galactic community. Counselor Minji found herself smiling. Captain Taman had been right about humans. They were indeed stubborn. They carried hope even in the darkest circumstances. And apparently, they learned very quickly. She made a note to contact Taman later. He would want to know that his rescued human had made it home safely, and that humanity had not only survived, but thrived. The galaxy would never be quite the same again. 8 years passed after humanity's formal contact with the Galactic Council. During that time, humans established themselves as active participants in galactic society. They opened trade agreements with dozens of species. They sent cultural exchange programs to various worlds. Their diplomats were courteous and professional. Their traders were fair and honest. Slowly, the initial suspicion faded. Most species came to view humanity as pleasant newcomers who were enthusiastic but harmless. The humans bought more than they sold, learned more than they taught, and generally behaved like eager students, trying to catch up to their more advanced neighbors. The galaxy largely forgot that humanity had once been considered potentially dangerous. They were just another species now, nothing special. Then came the incident that changed everything, Commander. Sunmin of the Krillian Imperial Navy was conducting a routine patrol along the disputed border, zone between Krillian space and unclaimed territory. The Krillians maintained this border carefully. They did not tolerate unauthorized vessels in what they considered their security perimeter. Even if the territory was technically unclaimed under galactic law, the border had been quiet for decades. Most species knew better than to provoke the Krillians. Their military was one of the largest and most advanced in the galaxy. They had fought and won 3 major wars in the past 1,000 years. Nobody wanted to make them angry. Commander Sunmin was reviewing patrol reports when his sensors officer called out an alert. "Sir, we have detected an unauthorized vessel in Sector 773. It appears to be conducting mineral surveys near our outpost." Sunmin pulled up the sensor data on his command display. The vessel was small, clearly designed for research rather than combat. Its energy signature was relatively low. Most importantly, the transponder identified it as human. "Humans," Sungmin muttered. "They should know better than to enter our security zone." He opened a communication channel to the human vessel. "Attention, human ship UEFS Horizon. You are conducting unauthorized activities in Krillian security space. Depart immediately, or you will be detained." The response came quickly. A human female appeared on the communication screen. She wore a simple ship captain's uniform and looked calm despite the situation. "This is Captain Sohin of the United Earth Federation survey ship Horizon. We are conducting mineral surveys in unclaimed space under the authority of the Galactic Navigation Charter, Article 12. This sector is not listed as claimed territory in any galactic registry." Sunmin felt his scales tighten in irritation. The human was technically correct. The sector was unclaimed under galactic law. But the Krillians had maintained a military outpost there for over a century. Everyone understood that meant it was Krillian territory, even if they had never filed the proper paperwork with the Council. "The legal status is irrelevant," Sunmin replied coldly. "This is Krillian security space. Your presence here is a provocation. I am ordering you to leave immediately. This is not a request." Captain Sohain's expression did not change. "Commander, with respect, we have the legal right to conduct surveys here. We are not approaching your outpost. We are not conducting military activities. We are simply gathering scientific data. We will complete our survey and depart within 6 hours." This was unacceptable. The Krillians did not negotiate with species that defied their orders. Sungmin had his duty to perform. "Captain Sohain, this is your final warning. Leave now, or I will disable your vessel and take you into custody for violating Krillian security protocols." "That would be an illegal act under galactic law," Sohain replied calmly. Sungmin cut the communication. He had given the human every chance to comply peacefully. Now he would do what was necessary. "Weapons officer, target the human vessel's propulsion systems. Disable them, but do not destroy the ship. We will tow them back for processing." The Krillian warship's weapons powered up. It was a standard procedure that had worked hundreds of times before. Most species would panic and flee at this point. But the human vessel did something unexpected. Defensive shields activated around the horizon. They were not the standard energy shields used by most galactic species. These were something different, something new. When the Krillian weapons fired, the energy blasts simply dispersed against shields without causing any damage. Sungmin stared at his display in disbelief. "That is impossible. Those shields should not be able to stop our weapons." His tactical officer looked equally confused. "Sir, the shield technology is unknown. It appears to be based on principles we have not encountered before." Sungmin felt a cold sensation spreading through his body. If the humans had developed shield technology that could nullify Krillian weapons, that changed the tactical situation dramatically. "Full assault," he ordered. "All weapons, maximum power. Overwhelm their shields." The Krillian warship unleashed everything it had. Energy beams, plasma torpedoes, kinetic missiles, all fired simultaneously at the small human research vessel. Any normal ship would have been vaporized instantly, but the Horizon's shields held. Every single attack was absorbed or deflected. "Sir," the sensors officer said, his voice shaking, "I am detecting multiple new contacts. They just appeared on our sensors. They were not there a moment ago." Sungmin looked at his tactical display. His blood ran cold. 12 new vessels had appeared around his patrol fleet. They had been cloaked somehow, completely invisible to Krillian sensors. Now they surrounded his ships in a perfect tactical formation. The new vessels were clearly human warships. They were sleek and angular, with designs that suggested advanced engineering. Each one was approximately the same size as a Krillian cruiser, and they were covered in weapon systems that Sung-min did not recognize. "Captain?" So-Hyun's voice came through the communication channel again. She still looked completely calm. "Commander Sung-min, I would like to make something clear. The Horizon is a research vessel, but it is not defenseless. The United Earth Federation takes the safety of its citizens very seriously. We hoped this situation could be resolved peacefully. However, if you continue your attack, my escort fleet is authorized to respond." Sung-min looked at the tactical display again. His patrol consisted of 4 ships. The humans had 12 warships now visible, and who knew how many more might be cloaked nearby. His vessel's weapons had proven completely ineffective against human shields. The tactical situation was hopeless. He had 2 choices: continue fighting and almost certainly lose, or withdraw and face questions about why he backed down from a confrontation with a species everyone considered harmless. Neither option was good, but Sung-min had survived 30 years in the Krillian military by knowing when to fight and when to retreat. "All ships withdraw to Rally Point Gamma," he ordered. "We are disengaging." Captain So-Hyun spoke one more time before the communication cut off. "Commander, we have no desire for conflict with the Krillian Empire or any galactic species. Please inform your superiors that humanity seeks only peaceful cooperation. But understand this clearly. We are prepared to defend ourselves and our legal rights. We will not be intimidated." The Krillian fleet withdrew. As they jumped to faster-than-light speed, Sung-min looked back at the sensor data one last time. The human warships remained in formation around the horizon, which calmly continued its mineral survey as if nothing had happened. "Commander." Sung-min knew this incident would cause problems far beyond his patrol sector. The galaxy thought humans were harmless newcomers. They were wrong. Very wrong. Within hours, an emergency session of the Galactic Council was called. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was packed. Representatives from every major species had arrived within hours of receiving the urgent summons. The border incident between the Krillian patrol and the human research vessel had sent shockwaves through the diplomatic community. Everyone wanted answers. Ambassador Boyam stood alone in the center of the vast chamber. She was surrounded by hundreds of alien representatives, many of whom looked at her with suspicion, fear, or anger. The holographic displays showed footage from Commander Sung-min's ship, replaying the moment when human warships had appeared from nowhere and surrounded the Krillian patrol. Counselor Young-ho of the Krillian delegation spoke first. His voice was cold and controlled, but everyone could hear the fury beneath. "Ambassador Bioram, the Krillian Empire demands an explanation. Your species deployed military vessels with advanced cloaking technology and weapon systems that have never been registered with the Council. You surrounded and threatened a Krillian military patrol, conducting lawful security operations. This is a clear violation of first contact protocols." Bioram waited calmly for the translation to finish. Then she responded in a clear, steady voice. "Counselor Young-ho, with respect. The Krillian patrol fired weapons at a civilian research vessel conducting legal scientific surveys in unclaimed space. The horizon was protected by escort vessels, as is the right of any civilization. Our ships did not fire a single shot. We defended ourselves and then allowed your patrol to withdraw peacefully. You deceived us." Another counselor shouted from the gallery. "You have hidden the true size and capability of your military forces. You claim to seek peaceful cooperation while secretly building a war fleet." The accusations continued. Representatives from dozens of species demanded answers. How many ships did humanity have? What other technologies had they hidden? What were their true intentions? The chamber was filled with angry voices and frightened speculation. Counselor Minji of the Velthari delegation raised her hand for recognition. As one of the most senior members of the council, she was granted immediate speaking privileges. "Ambassador Boyram, I think I speak for many here when I say we feel deceived. When humanity requested formal contact 8 years ago, we were told you were a young species, eager to learn from your galactic neighbors. We accepted you in good faith. Now we discover you have military capabilities that rival or exceed many established powers. Why did you not disclose this information? Bjorn took a deep breath. This was the moment she had been preparing for. Counselor Minji, humanity never lied to this council. We said we sought peaceful cooperation. That was and remains true. We said we had much to learn from older civilizations. That is also true. We never claimed to be defenseless. We simply did not volunteer information that was not requested. She activated her own holographic display. A three-dimensional map of human space appeared, floating in the center of the chamber. Blue markers began appearing on the map, spreading outward from Earth like ripples in water. There were dozens of markers, then hundreds, then thousands. The United Earth Federation maintains a defensive fleet, Bjorn said calmly. The fleet consists of approximately 47,000 vessels. This includes 12,000 warships of various classes, 18,000 support and logistics craft, 15,000 patrol and reconnaissance vessels, and 2,000 capital ships. The chamber exploded in chaos. Representatives shouted in disbelief. Some species translators simply shut down from the overwhelming noise. The number was impossible to comprehend. For comparison, the Krillian Empire, one of the galaxy's major military powers, maintained approximately 8,000 warships. The Velthri had 3,000. Most species had a few hundred at most. Counselor Young-Ho's voice cut through the noise. This is impossible. Your species achieved faster than light travel barely 50 years ago. No civilization could build such a fleet in such a short time. You must be lying or exaggerating. Borum met his gaze steadily. I am not lying. The numbers are accurate and can be verified. As for how we accomplished this, perhaps I can explain. She changed the holographic display. Now it showed an image of Lieutenant Hyan Sik in his old uniform, the same one he wore when he was rescued decades ago. Many of the older council members recognized him immediately. 27 years ago, one of our people was lost in space, Bjorn began. Lieutenant Hyan Sik was the sole survivor of a failed colony mission. He drifted alone in a cryogenic pod for 7 years. He should have died. By every logical calculation, he should have died. But he was rescued. She gestured to the Velthri delegation. Captain Taman of the Velthri Exploration Service found him and brought him to safety. The Velthri people gave him shelter for 17 years. They treated him with kindness and respect. They taught him about the galaxy and sent a message to Earth on his behalf. They showed him that the universe, while vast and dangerous, also contained compassion. Bjorn's voice became softer, but more intense. When Lieutenant Hyan Sik finally returned to Earth 8 years ago, he told us everything. He told us about the hundreds of spacefaring species. He told us about the ancient civilizations and their incredible technologies. He told us about the power structures and political dynamics that govern galactic civilization. She paused, letting her words sink in. But most importantly, he told us how fragile our position was. He told us that humanity was seen as primitive, insignificant, barely worth noticing. He told us that species are judged by their power and their technology. He told us that kindness, while appreciated, comes from a position of strength. The chamber was completely silent now. Every representative was listening intently. So we made a decision, Bjorn continued. We decided that when we finally made contact with the galaxy, we would do so as equals, not as supplicants. We pooled every resource our species had. We built shipyards in orbit around every planet and moon in our system. We recruited the best engineers and scientists. We worked around the clock for 8 years. We built a fleet that could protect our people and our interests. She looked directly at Counselor Young-Ho. We did not build this fleet to conquer anyone. We built it so that no one could dismiss us. We built it so that when we extend our hand in friendship, it is accepted as an equal's gesture, not a subject's plea. We built it so that what happened to Lieutenant Hyan Sik drifting alone and helpless in space, would never happen to another human again. The silence stretched for a long moment. Then Captain Taman, who was now serving as a military advisor to the Velthari delegation, stood up. His presence commanded immediate attention. "I knew Lieutenant Hyansik," Taman said, his voice carrying across the vast chamber. "I rescued him when he had nothing. I watched him struggle to adapt to a galaxy that saw him as a curiosity, an oddity, something less than equal. He was grateful for the kindness shown to him, but I could see the pain in his eyes when others dismissed his species as primitive and irrelevant." Taman turned to face the council. "Humanity has done something remarkable here. They took the lesson we taught them about galactic civilization, and they prepared themselves accordingly. They did not do this through aggression or conquest. They did it through determination, innovation, and unified effort. And now they stand before us, not as helpless newcomers begging for protection, but as a civilization ready to take its place among us." He looked at Bahram with something like pride. "If we condemn them for being strong, we condemn them for learning the lessons we taught. If we fear them for being prepared, we fear them for being competent. I say we should be grateful that a species with this level of capability has chosen diplomacy over domination. That speaks to their character far more than their fleet size." The council deliberated for hours. Species debated, argued, and discussed the implications of humanity's revelation. Some wanted to impose restrictions. Others wanted to welcome them fully. A few suggested military containment. Finally, after lengthy discussion, a vote was called. The majority voted to grant humanity full membership status in the Galactic Council with no special restrictions. They would be treated as equals. With all the rights and responsibilities that entailed, Ambassador Borum accepted the decision with grace and dignity. Lieutenant Hyansik Borum said before Timon could speak, "He asked me to give you a message personally. He is now Admiral Hyansik, commander of the Third Fleet. He wanted me to thank you for saving his life all those years ago. He said he thinks about that moment often, floating alone in the dark, certain he would die forgotten. And then you found him." Taman felt emotion welling up inside him. "I only did what any decent being would do." Perhaps Borum said, "But your kindness saved more than one life that day. It shaped how an entire species views the galaxy." Hyansik came home and told us that the universe was vast and dangerous, but it was not empty. He told us there were good people among the stars, people worth knowing and protecting. That is why we built our fleet, Captain. Not just to protect ourselves, but to one day protect others the way you protected one of ours." She smiled. "Humanity remembers kindness, Captain Taman. We always will, and we never forget." Years later, humanity became one of the galaxy's most reliable defenders of emerging species,